We've had so many amazing fights this decade, some were groundbreaking. And today at ViniiTube, we're going to take a look at some of the most amazing fights of this decade. Let's take a look. Let's start off with Dai vs Vern in the Dragon Quest anime. From manga to anime and recently to the game, Dai's adventure follows our titular hero on his adventure to stop a great evil. Classic JRPG stuff. Now let's talk about the animation. The movement is nice and smooth, every action is given weight, and every attack is given the time and emphasis it needs to let us know it's meant to hurt, and it's all the more impressive when Dai blocks every blow. The scene carries so much weight, as part of him has that genuine desire to cause Vern harm after killing Gome, but he's also remorseful over Vern's idea that violence and power can permit justice. This also makes his humiliating beatdown all the more ironic, since it's pretty easy to talk about how your power is what makes you strong, right until a 12-year-old knocks your lights out. It goes to say, a fight scene by itself is good, but the story behind it makes it great. Another bombastic fight scene we have for you today is Zug versus the puppets from The Outcast. An interesting story built on an already seen premise. Some kid discovered a society of martial artists that he's now become a part of. There's drama, action, and a family legacy to protect. However, we don't care about him because the one fighting is Zug. What makes this scene so noteworthy is the sheer choreography used. Chinese martial arts. It's one of the most well-known out there, and their anime really knows how to ham it up. The strategy and flow of every character, Zug's initial reliance on deflection to show he's on the defensive, and letting the audience know these puppets are trouble, make it that much more intense. The animation blew everyone's minds, and it goes to show that even a series as unknown as this can be amazing. What's more, having one of them use a weapon added more suspense to the battle and gave us something to put on this list, so thanks Outcast. Next on our list is a bit of a surprise entry, since slice of life anime are never where you usually go for fight scenes, and it's none other than Toru vs Elma from Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Regardless, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is an everyday story of a young woman meeting a dragon, saving her life, and now that dragon works as a maid. But let's talk about the action here. First of all, it's utterly spectacular. Every movement's dynamic, the background switching to different environments only to be destroyed in what feels like a clash between gods. The fight is all the more ridiculous when it clashes with the show's cutesy round art style. The reasoning behind the fight is pretty tragic though. Elma felt betrayed by Toru moving on, suddenly switching her ideology as she became a near stranger to Elma and simply wanted her friend back and was hurt by the distance between them. Thankfully though, some heartfelt words and a flick to the head calmed Elma down, and her friendship is now rekindled. But they did give us one hell of a godly animated fight scene. Moving on, we have all the styling needed for a classic high-octane anime fight with Toma and Gunha versus Misaka from A Certain Scientific Railgun. And our introduction to this drama is through Toma, our protagonist and cynic with a heart of gold. This particular battle has a few interesting points to it, but so does the whole show. Several scenes had stiffer animations, almost stock-like, but the show makes up for this by putting all that effort into the effects and attacks. The simplistic designs actually helped our warehouse-trapped animators by giving them monumental moments of pure badass. There's also the plot of brainwashing and healing, but for this scene, it's the effects that make it special.
Hey?
Coming up is a diamond in the coal mine of isekai anime, Mushoku Tensei When Paul's Party Fought the Hydra. Fight has it all. Cool effects, gorgeous animation, and that drama to make it all the more thrilling. The party faces a massive Hydra with death on the horizon, an event that's fun for the whole family, somewhat literally in this case. The strategy they used where the fighters were cutting off the head and the mages using fire to cauterize it makes the characters feel as experienced with these battles as they should be, making it feel realistic in a sense. The Hydra design is initially off-putting with its CGI CGI, but it still blends well with the background and the characters, so you don't actually mind it as the battle goes on. What gives this fight its spot on the list is the tragedy before the fall, as the Hydra, nearly beaten, still lets out one final attack which Paul takes in Rudy's place, making the scene more impactful and remarkable. Plus, like every fight scene in Mushoku Tensei, the animation blew our minds. But you know what blew me away? Japan. That's right, I went to Japan this year and my best friend there was the sponsor of this video, Klook. Klook's a travel booking app that has tours, events and more available for all sorts of destinations from Europe to Japan and beyond. I used the Klook app to explore Osaka Castle and book my Shinkansen tickets. And let me tell you, the experience was super smooth and quick. Whether your goal is visiting the Shibuya Sky in Japan to get that JJK feel or going to crazy anime conventions that are held in LA, a service like Klook has got you covered. Klook offers some of the most user-friendly functions of any other booking app, with support in over a dozen languages and about 40 currencies. So you don't have to worry about the math of the trip. Worried about finding a place to sit? Hidden costs? Well, Klook guarantees the best price booking for you and can even handle lodging along with any major scenes you want to attend. Moreover, the app is always offering tons of vouchers and discount codes for you frugal types, which may include me too, actually. If you want to experience that yourself, use my creator code ViniiTube and get a massive discount on your first purchase to prepare for an adventure outside of the screen. Slashing its way onto the list, we have Asta and Yami versus Dante in Black Clover. This anime is a bit of an interesting case as it has absolutely zero unique or interesting characters, minus Mereoleona, but the magic system, fight scenes and pure adrenaline honestly elevate it to be a contender in the new shonen Big 3. The battle against Dante emphasizes all that makes Black Clover so good. This fight has something you rarely find in other anime: team battles. Here we see the villains as actual threats that require the squad to form up, and we're treated to magic combinations, assists, and the kitchen sink. There's a true struggle between Asta and Yami against Dante that makes the viewers genuinely feel the victory isn't assured, and the gorgeous animation on Asta's devil form makes him truly seem like what the Demon Society makes him out as. Moreover, taking the battle in the air gave a level of freedom to the movement that made the fight all the more interesting. The cherry on top is the victory achieved by Asta with Yami's sword, but the team still lost in the end as they lost their captain. Just the perfect drama. And of course, no cool fights list would be complete without Sword Art Online, especially when Berkoli fought Vector, an anime that started the game world genre, quickly taking over the medium and making it everyone's problem. The story revolves around Kirito, our bland, overpowered protagonist who can't seem to not be trapped in alternate worlds. Either way, this fight doesn't have him in it, but we don't care because it's so gorgeous. The sound design for this battle is unique, with a deep bass for the blast effects making you feel the impact. On top of all of that, the animation and music lets us know that this is a battle for the ages. The fight's interesting, as it's partly a puzzle. Vector's broken level stats and ability make him practically untouchable, leaving Berkoli to strategize while staying alive long enough to do so. We also get impressed by Berkoli's clutch win and taking advantage of the flaws in Vector's arrogance. The scene is more meaningful because the heroes gain the win, but at the cost of Berkoli's life, giving us a feeling of dread at who else is next. Now, let's talk about the iconic JoJo's Bizarre Adventure series, and it's more JoJo than ever when Jolene fought Enrico Pucci. This series follows Jotaro's daughter Jolene in prison, where she must face Dio's priest X from taking over the power of gravity and destroying the world. Now, as you know, JoJo fight scenes are different from usual shonen fare, simply because the characters are too detailed and the animators too starved to make long animated fight scenes. Instead, it tries to combine cool still images, the most bonkers dialogue that you've ever heard, and impressive flashes of animation to come up with a unique style of its own. The fight between Jolene and Pucci has all of that and more. The evolution and creativity of Jolene's stand make her chances against what is essentially a godlike ability seem winnable, whether it's spreading her strings to the handcuffs or making a Mobius strip to keep her body intact. Honestly, few words can do a JoJo fight justice, but what we can say is that it deserves a spot here.
こいつ凄みで私の攻撃を探知したんだ。撃て。
Up next, we have the show no one could stop talking about when it first came out, Chainsaw Man. And we'll talk about it some more as we go back to when the Devil Hunters fought Katana Man. Few shows can have the joy, sorrow, and excitement this anime manages to evoke about a horny teenager getting the power of a chainsaw for a head, but by God, they did it. Either way, there have been many cool fight scenes, and we'll be talking about this little skirmish our Devil Hunters had against Katana Man. Now, spoiler alert here, but it didn't go well for our heroes. The action and choreography had a fascinating design, simultaneously crazy gore and battle mixed with a more realistic motion for the characters. The CGI was very well done, giving the creatures an uncanny vibe that fits well with the design and idea. And then of course comes the sheer tragedy of Himeno's loss after coming so close to reaching their goal. This scene deserves its spot for pushing out so many emotions within us, motivating us to watch further and see if Katana Man gets what's coming to him. Speaking of emotions, we have Naruto versus Ishiki in Boruto. This fight reminds viewers why this world was known as one of the big three in shonen manga and anime. This battle hits the nostalgia bar for oldies and gives hype to the youngins as we see Naruto go all out against his foe. The animation is top tier, delivering smooth, followable movement and action for the viewers while delivering the fantastic light choreography the series is known for at this point. Ishiki's creative mass manipulation makes the fight more interesting, but the key highlight is Naruto himself. We see him in a new form, experienced in utilizing techniques and fighting styles to emphasize how much he's improved since those days as the class clown. But the true highlight is the cost of Naruto's victory as he says farewell to his oldest friend Kurama, who sacrificed his life to give the boost needed to beat Ishiki. Before we take a look at the top 10, now's a good time for you to give this video a like. Come on, I'll wait for you, okay? Alright? Done? ViniiTube's entire team is dedicated to making amazing content for you, and you can support by subscribing to this channel as well. Thank you very much. Let's get to the top 10. If you thought the fights you've seen till now were something else, get ready for these. To start off, let's talk about Gintoki versus Utsuro from Gintama. Now, Gintama is not what anyone would call a serious show, especially when an entire arc could be made for a bit of parody. Gintama doesn't take itself too seriously, which makes the moments when they do all the more hard-hitting. The animation alone makes this fight something special, but it's the underlying themes, motivations, and history of the character that brought it to this spot. The battle goes through the perspective of Utsuro, who for so long was so unstoppable as he now lies mortal and falling in his own memories, unable to strike Gintoki until he falls to the ground, beaten at last. It proves that Utsuro's philosophy of solitude is the weaker one, as Gintoki's success is thanks to the bonds he shared with his comrades and their actions that lead him to give his old mentor his deserved rest. Moving on with Demon Slayer with the iconic fight scene between Tengen and Gyutaro. This was our most challenging question yet. Which fight to pick? Every battle in this anime is list-worthy, but for now, we'll settle with Gyutaro versus Tengen. Although Tanjiro is the official MC, the spotlight is definitely pointed at the flashiest Hashira in this fight. Boy was already poisoned and is fighting with one hand after losing the other, but he still chooses to fight till death. Talk about Hashira pride, right? The animation goes insane as we can barely follow the speed at which these two fight. Ufotable definitely did way more justice by bringing the manga to life. It's nothing but pure eye candy. From the bold, flashy colors to the astonishing choreography that was laid out well by the perfect angles, the entire scene was perfection. What makes it more impactful is how intense you feel watching it. At no point can our heroes let up, nor is there a feeling of certain victory as they fight tooth and nail to stop the demon threat. At the very least, they've deserved a spot here. What what happens to the adventuring party after the big bad villain is dead? Well, we have Frieren fighter herself. You see, Frieren Beyond's journey answers, and boy is it a good one. The anime follows the journey of the titular Frieren as she goes back and relives her old adventuring days with her now dead party. A tale of melancholy, beauty, and crazy action. But we're going to talk about this one specific fight that easily earned its way here with all that it offers. Gorgeous animation, strategy, and the use of teamwork. Watching two people perpetually blast and hit each other with abandon should theoretically get old, but this show captivates our attention by making each opponent trying to get creative in their dealings, which Frieren accomplishes by coming up with the perfect scheme. If the clone has all her strengths, the same is true of her weaknesses. This shows her ability to adapt even against herself, her terrifying strength in the battle, and her ability to teach as she guides her companion on how to take her down, as we learn a lesson that even absolute power won't save you from a well-timed shot. Up next is an underrated anime made by a small studio with big ambitions. Shanchu vs Jing from Fog Hill of the Five Elements. There's not even a need to discuss the story, since the fight scene alone brings to levels never seen before. The animation style has the typical stylings of anime, but with a thicker outline and unique style that makes it unlike anything else. Its musical score makes every moment heart-pounding, and the fight itself blows the mind. The choreography is well planned as every attack has a strategy to it, a flow that goes on in more and more creative ways, like punching someone to give the boost of speed to attack their foe. It baffles the mind. Every strike has an impact, and you can see the effect on each character as well as their ability to improvise on the go, making it clear to us that these are fighting geniuses. Normally, there's some pun or joke to making such a list, but honestly, watch Fog Hill. It deserves so much love, and I'm hoping having this on the list will convince you to give it a shot. Now we move on to solo leveling, where Song Jin-woo fought Igris. Do you like dungeons, overpowered characters, crazy fight scenes? Then this anime is the one for you. The fight against Igris harkens back to what we love about animated fights. The movement is easy to follow and still gives you that fast-paced feeling. Every attack has an appropriate feel of impact, which is only improved by the awesome design of the enemy and the excellent choreography in both swordplay and fist fights. Once again, this fight has that special something to make it high on the list. It utilizes strategy and cunning in defeating an opponent as simply out of his league. The fake out leading to a pinpoint strike with his dagger shows us that he has more to him than just his powers and makes us eager to see where he goes next. Next up is one of the best fights we've seen in a while, and it's no surprise it comes from Bleach as Unohana for Kenpachi. From starting as a story about a part-time Soul Reaper to finally getting its conclusion after years in hiatus, Bleach is a classic that fans have been hungering for, and they're well fed. The fight between these two captains is more than what many can imagine, as it's also a reunion between two souls yearning for the same thing, a good fight. The battle is fantastic as we see the strange and fascinating powers of Unohana's blood work, but it's the story behind every strike that elevates it to its peak. Every blow makes Zaraki stronger, awakening the beast who chained itself, so he always enjoys the fight, but as it goes on, he becomes afraid, unwilling to let the battle end as he finally meets his match, only to find her beaten, but satisfied that she's rectified her mistake, and now Soul Society has unleashed a force of nature that can't be put back.
さようなら。世界でただ一人。
Blessing us next is another Chinese anime that's so good, I can't believe it's underrated. It's Blade of the Guardians, Daoma versus the double-headed snake versus Changuren. In terms of sword fights, this one's top-notch. It started off with Dao and the double-headed snake taking care of Guren's men, but it quickly turned into a three-way battle that was thrilling to watch. I can't believe how good the way the camera followed their movements was. You still have to get used to the dialogue, but once you're past that, you get an awesome fight. You could truly see that they're not holding back. In the end, Daoma was the one that survived, and even then, the way he ended Changuren was brutal and satisfying. But we can't make a list like this without the talk of the town. Jujutsu Kaisen Sukuna vs Mahoraga fight. Season 2 of the show was a treat, but this fight scene was truly the icing on the cake. Sukuna has already shown us his upper power with Jogo, but the battle against Mahoraga showed us why he's called King of Curses. Every moment of this fight is high-octane madness. The animation is so fast and visceral that several parts of it had to be removed due to time constraints. The battle keeps switching to different parts of the city, and both opponents take full advantage of their environment, whether it's Sukuna smashing a plane wing against Mahoraga, or the Shikigami using an entire train against Sukuna. There's a perpetual switch up in fighting styles, as Mahoraga could be using his blade at one moment, then switches to a body slam the next, ensuring that we never get bored or feel like we can anticipate where it's going to go. The haunting laughter of Sukuna lets us know that all of this is still just play to him, which makes us wonder what he'll be like when he goes all out.
福間水氏
With some of the most legendary animation sequences in anime ever, we have Saber Alter vs Rider in Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel 3. The Fate series is known for a lot of things. A strong story where people inhabit the powers of legendary figures, bonkers crazy animation, and creating a level of confusion on where the series' starting point is strong enough to rival superhero comics. In regards to the fight between Saber and Rider, the simplest way to describe it would be that it's a Fate fight. The sheer quality of the animation for this franchise as a whole puts even some legendary animes to shame. What makes it especially interesting is the contrast between Saber's heavy strikes and tank-like deficiency against Rider's more dexterity and speed-based attacks. The music absolutely slaps and gives the battle gravitas and impact to hook its viewers.
能力が世界を制することはない。
And finally, the best fight scene of the decade is Luffy versus Kaido from One Piece. Yeah, I know, big shocker. While the answer may seem basic, it's also because it is correct, isn't it? With the Wano arc, One Piece has elevated its animation to unbelievable levels and brought more love to a series that defined shonen manga. The battle between these two titans answers a strange question. What if a Looney Tunes character was in an anime? Luffy's Gear 5 offers a wacky, almost joyful counterpoint to the typical shonen battle trope as Kaido attempts to bring his world back on track, but Luffy is just too silly. All of this is topped off with some of the best animation the series has ever seen. The battle's almost like a convergence for Luffy's character. He was always so cheerful and oblivious to danger, going about life with mad abandon, and now he has the power to have the world join him in his escapades, truly embodying the spirit of freedom he's become and showing us why the world government fears his power. Are there any fights that you feel deserve a spot on this list? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to check out Klook and use my code ViniiTube for some amazing discounts. If you enjoyed this video, take a look at this video of the best anime of last decade. Thanks again, see you soon.